The most terrifying, uncertain, fear-inducing time in my comedy career was the first month, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. It took me a long time to get to the point of even starting stand-up comedy, and I made another video about that experience, which you can watch on my channel. But after I had overcome that, there were still so many more hurdles I had to get over. This is probably the least documented part of my stand-up journey, primarily because I was just so nervous that oftentimes I just forgot to hit record on my iPhone. So only a couple of audio recordings exist from this time period, and I'll fill in the gaps with my storytelling. My first week, my first surprise was the pressure. I was not expecting to be facing so much pressure right away. It's very easy to daydream and write in your room and just picture how the first experience is going to go and plan out how it's going to go. But then when you get there and they turn those lights on you and the host introduces your name,
Put your hands together, everyone, for Mr. James McElhinney!
And they hand you the microphone and you stand up on stage in front of a crowd of people, but you can barely see them because the light is pouring into your face, and they say go, like it's your time to be funny. Ready, be funny right now. You got 5 minutes. I could barely rely on the preparation that I had earlier that day. I had written out stuff on note cards, and I was like trying to look on the note cards and even hold them up, but I couldn't even see them because the light was so bright. I was just seeing spots when I was looking at them, and just the nerve of the whole audience. That was a terrifying experience, and so I didn't say what I set out to say. Things didn't go the way I expected them to go right away, just because of how overwhelming and big that experience is. No recordings of that set exist, unfortunately, but I'll tell you exactly what happened. I was so nervous but determined to be prepared. So I got to the venue 2 hours early. It's the back room of a restaurant. I sign up late because I'm afraid to get up in front of a bunch of comedians, so I figure by the end of the night most of them will have left, so I don't have to perform in front of them.
How interesting. It was similar for me also, like where I did my first ever open mic. It was behind a restaurant basically. So and the setting was also similar to what he is at now, but I think it is a different place.
Which is what happened. And I just ended up being there for a long time because I got there so early and I went up so late, so I was just sitting nervously in the back of this dark restaurant room until eventually I had to go up. I should say the vibe of the room was very strange and very different. And I didn't realize this at the time, but I have since talked to another comedian who was there who has confirmed, yeah, it was a really weird vibe that night because it was the night that Donald Trump had gotten inaugurated. So there was a lot of vitriol and a lot of anger because of what had just happened. It was not a pro-Trump room for sure. Everyone was just getting on stage and talking about Donald Trump. So it just felt strange and weird. And I definitely didn't want to talk about Trump. I didn't even want to think about Trump. But I just felt pressure because everyone was doing that. So I made a mistake. When I finally went up on stage, I said, I need to say something related to this, but I couldn't think of anything. But I did it anyway, and the best I could come up with was I told a story, never having told a story before, about a time where I was mean to a Muslim girl on the bus as a kid and how I regretted that and I never wanted to do that again. It ended up being very weird and awkward, and there was just silence. And I remember the host, who was a very nice guy, just looked at me as I got off stage. And I haven't told that story again. And that's probably the only thing I've told on stage just once. The open mic I went to the next day, the vibe was very different. The room was much bigger and there was far less comedians. There was maybe only 7 comedians and audience total, whereas the mic I'd went to before, it was well in the 30s. So this did help with my stage fright a little bit, but I was still nervous and awkward on stage. And I actually was so insecure that I yelled at someone for laughing at me. Just having fun up here, just having fun up here. Need to see how much time I have. Oh yeah, okay. What are you laughing at?
That's something funny that you did on stage.
Oh,
On
good.
stage.
Telling jokes?
Yeah.
Telling jokes? Was you laughing at my
Making me
joke?
laugh. You did it.
Oh, good. The whole point of going to open mic is to get people to laugh at you. There was a moment, though, at this mic where I did leave that ball of nerves behind for just a
All right, so I mean, it's very interesting for him. Like, let's just listen to this part once again.
of going to open mic is to get people to laugh at you.
So here's the thing, a lot of times people feel that them and like their personality and what what they say and who they are at like on stage also is a different thing. You're supposed to have excuse me. You're supposed to have a persona of very polished, I would say, not in a sense that your jokes are clean, but I think that's what people say. So I'd say, like, with a straight face, you're able to say some jokes, and then your jokes are making people laugh. But sometimes it's the character, the body language and everything. Everything matters. So sometimes a clumsy person will be more likable compared to a person who is overconfident and feels that yeah he is in the business and he knows how to laugh, and then he's not able to empathize with the people, right? Even when you're looking, like, if there's an audience on stage, not on stage but they're looking at someone on stage, and sometimes where there are very few people in the audience during open mics, they're very afraid because they might get asked something by the comedian, and comedian might make some jokes which they might not be ready for, so they do like sometimes comics being a bit clumsy, at least in the beginning. If they are able to empathize, and once they connect, I think they're able to appreciate and loosen up during the entire bit, and then they're able to, like, they give a genuine response in that aspect.
There was a moment, though, at this mic where I did leave that ball of nerves behind for just a second. I did riff this line that got a laugh, that was true to the moment of the room, and it commented on what was happening right now. And I think that was my first, like, true laugh that I felt good about, and I felt like, oh, if I can be like this all the time, comedy will be an amazing experience for me.
It's not that hard to fool people. If you have a lot of money and a big advertising budget, and I don't know where that's going, but anyway, that was a little too, I think, moralistic. If I learned anything from watching this open mic so far, it's have no morals.
My second week of comedy, I probably
Alright, so we are only 1/3 into his journey.
experienced the most terrifying thing that I ever had at that point. And even right now, I went to the same open mic again, and this comedian showed up. I thought he was a comedian. Turns out maybe he wasn't. But he was just heckling every single person at the open mic. It was a bloodbath. People were getting on stage and trying to tell him to be quiet. People were just going after him and insulting him in the most vile way. And he was just wrecking sets for at least the first 15, maybe 20 comedians. There were super experienced comedians that couldn't handle it. It was just so strange. And I was just sitting in the back, just terrified, being like, I don't know anything what to do. I can barely speak clearly on stage. This is going to be horrible. But thankfully, and I think way too long, they asked him to leave. My third week of doing comedy, he shows up again. West Side and boy, was I terrified again. But he seemed better behaved this time, until he got into a fight with one of the patrons at the bar, and so the cops were called, and he and the party he got into a fight with were forcefully removed from the bar. And then I got on stage, and you can hear my fear and relief that he was kicked out of that bar.
I'm not going to pretend I was kind of hoping everything would be resolved by the time I got up on stage, and glad it was. Yeah, it's the first for me, calling cops or anything. Whew. I don't mind it, actually. It's really good experience. I feel like if you can handle this, you can handle anything.
Perhaps because of that distraction, I was able to have a breakthrough moment on stage that night where I think I told my first bit of confessional storytelling on stage. I got on stage and
Yeah, I felt that he's actually expressing what he's feeling, and once you're able to do that, like whatever you're thinking and whatever you're saying is in sync. You don't have to pause, and it comes out naturally. It's like a flow. I think that is a very at that moment. I think you actually connect with the audience. I don't know, but I feel that to me that's a different vibe, which I feel when it's like stand-up is also a part. It's a conversation basically. The audience also sometimes responds back during crowd work, but it's mostly in the form of laughter. They respond, and then we again talk back, and then there's more laughter, and it's a conversation, and in this way, even if the comedian who's not laughing is also enjoying the moment. Yeah, that is it.
I was nervous about what I was going to say.
My last joke, a little scared about this one because, okay, yeah. It's so easy to write stuff down. It's a lot harder when you're up here.
But I managed to say it, and I felt like it was a success for me at the time.
Yeah, okay, so, let me tell you a story about,
The best thing is when you say that it's harder to say, and then you start saying it's like that grabs people's attention basically. They're like, okay, so if he hadn't said that, he would have been like people would have judged his statement or the comic bit which he's about to say, his material. But now, knowing the fact that it's difficult, the bar already goes a bit lower, and then now it's easier for him to get a laugh basically. At least this effort makes his chances of failing decrease to some extent, which is a good way of doing things. You first set up an expectation in front of people. Not always it's about the setup punchline criteria which I'm talking about, but it's sometimes also, if you are trying to say something, if you just summarize it in beforehand and then tell the entire picture, or just give a trailer kind of thing and then tell about the movie, they are able to contextualize what you're trying to say.
the closest I ever came to being seduced by a man in a public bathroom around 6 or 7 years ago.
And since then, I generally do believe that whenever I'm very nervous,
I think it was good that he actually lowered the bar, because like even the crowd you could hear like what, and like people are also like, no one was expecting that. I think even he was not expecting what he was about to say.
without saying something that doesn't frame me the way I expect to frame myself, or just am nervous or embarrassed about what I'm about to admit or confess on stage, it's usually a good idea to try that out, because often there's something there. That fear you fear in yourself often means it's going to be good or interesting on stage. In my 4th week of doing comedy, I was starting to get a little confident. I had faced the worst, a heckler, just forgetting everything, and I was starting to realize that, oh, you'll face the worst, and it'll be bad, but there'll also be good times too. And I was getting a little confident that I was even starting to give other new comedians advice.
I don't know how I can follow that last act. That was pretty good for the first time. I certainly was not that good my first time.
I was already being nostalgic to when I first started comedy 3 whole weeks ago.
I think it's the life experience that really helps out. I don't have much life.
Imagine after doing comedy for years, how will he be saying? Like, it would be like several centuries ago, there used to be an open mic when I started doing comedy.
But I think the most cool experience that happened in my 4th week is this other much older comedian, probably not considered as cool by the younger comedians. Like, he was a clean comedian. I think he also did Christian comedy, so he worked that circuit. But he came up to me after a set at an open mic. He's like, hey, can I give you advice? And me being the newbie was like, yeah, please do. He seemed like a nice guy too, which is also important when getting advice from people, is make sure they're nice. I've had some bad experiences. But he was really nice, and he took me aside, and he talked about the current bit I was working on. And he also said, I think you're really funny. And I have some experience with funny. I think he may have even said, I know funny, and you have funny. There's a lot of comedians that get up there and don't have funny, but you have funny. And I want to see you keep being funny. And that just made my day, made my week, made my month. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I can do this. Like, adrenaline and happiness just filled my veins. And that kept me going for a long time. There was also another moment where me and a bunch of comedians were sitting at the bar at an open mic. It was Valentine's Day. And this crackhead gets on stage. He hadn't done comedy before, and I don't think he did it since. But he was hilarious in like an interesting, different experience that I had never seen before. He gets up on stage and starts talking about his addiction to crack in a very funny way, and talking about how he spent time in jail and what he did for Valentine's Day in the jail.
And believe me, I did not spend much time in jail. But while I was there, hey, I'm a worker.
It was just amazing, funny experience. I just remember all me and the other comedians laughing and talking about it. And that was the moment where I'm like, oh, I think I'm accepted in this community. And it's been 4 years of me being in that community. And I hope I don't leave it anytime soon. Thank you for watching. Drop a comment, subscribe.
Yep. A huge shout out to this guy. I think you guys know his name. I'll keep that in the description of the video. Not even in the description, in the thumbnail. So that the first thing you see is the name. Alright, that is it. Thanks a lot for watching this. In 3, 2, 1, I'm going to stop the recording. 3, 2, 1.